Hello and welcome to another Wannabe Entrepreneur episode. My name is Thiago and this is the podcast about what's really like to bootstrap a company. I know what you're thinking. Today is Wednesday, not Tuesday. I'm really sorry. I normally release these episodes on Tuesday, but yesterday there was simply too much going on and I didn't want to rush it. I want to make content that I'm happy with, content that you will enjoy, and yesterday it was simply impossible. But to compensate you, today I have a special episode. Normally, in this kind of freestyle episodes, I purely speak about what's going on in my life, about my indie hacking challenges. But today, I have something different. My friend Sven, a good friend of mine that I know for more than 7 years, he was here and we decided to have a heart-to-heart conversation. And even though we have similar personalities, he's not an indie hacker. Quite the opposite. He has been working in the tech industry for the past 8 years and is now a project manager in a company in Berlin. In this conversation, I want to know what excites him and frustrates him the most about his current position, and I will also share my point of view. And in the end, we'll have a very open-hearted conversation about our hopes and dreams. So, let's introduce Sven.
I'm just a dude. Is that a good introduction? I'm a guy that tries to, or at least I'm trying to convince myself that I try to, do the best that I can with the time that I have, with the job that I have. I'm trying to climb the ladder, or win the rat race, or at least not drop out of the rat race. Right. And I'm explicitly aware of it, but I don't really mind. I like the rat race. And it all kind of serves the purpose of enabling myself to accomplish several private and professional goals.
I always enjoyed, and I still enjoy, obviously, our conversations. I love having conversations. Sometimes Carolina, my partner, she always saying, okay, it goes nowhere. But sometimes we have like stupid conversations. Remember like that time we're like trying to decide if football players would prefer play for their national team or their club.
And it still hasn't been resolved. This is an ongoing conversation.
Yeah, I think we like switched points. We switch opinions 3 or 4 times already. But we are always in different sides of the spectrum, like trying to argue with each other.
It's very weather dependent,
It's very weather dependent. It's true.
Very weather dependent.
I think we are both very similar in terms of like mindset and very pragmatic, and we have the same kind of stupid humor as well. But we are in different spectrums. Like we kind of both want to reach some financial freedom, right?
Right.
But you are, as you said, trying to win the rat race. You're trying to like go up the corporate ladder, and I'm trying to go the other way, the indie hacking way. But we are both kind of entrepreneur, I would say, and we are kind of always discussing new ideas. And we just went to the Web Summit together, and you spent a big chunk of that time chatting with companies and trying to understand what they do. So I think today would be really interesting for us to just chat about our week. So your week as an employee, my week as an indie hacker, and also try to think about our future, what we want. We are both in our 30s now. We are old men, and it's a different era. Like it's time to maybe settle down or at least kind of think more seriously about our future. So I would love to discuss that. So what excited you the most in your job in this past week?
I'm starting a new project that's also always kind of invigorating, because you meet new people, so it's by default, as the projects drag on, they get a bit more boring and dull.
So you started a new project last week?
Yeah, we started a new project, yeah.
Okay. Tell me, maybe you cannot share the full details because, confidentiality and shit, but...
No, we don't have an NDA, so I can tell you everything.
All right, perfect. Tell me about it. Like, what was it like to start this project? Like, give, maybe not a lot of details, not to bore people, but like, give us some details about that process.
So it was Monday morning, 9:31 a.m. No, it's a Swedish company, and they got contacted by our sales department. And the exciting part was as the sales department hands stuff over to you, so you're learning about the company a bit, you're trying to get some information through, and then you reach out to them, you establish the first contact with the customer, you introduce yourself like, hey, I want to set up a kickoff call, and then you hop on a call, and then you start, introducing the projects from your team, like how you deal with projects, how you complete them, what happens, and what, do's and don'ts, and that kind of stuff. That I think that's the exciting part, because you have to build. It's never a copy-paste template. You have to modify it a bit. It depends on the project. And, you're going to meet new people. You want to leave a good first impression. I mean, all of the impressions are important, right? But so that's the exciting part, because you're going to learn, more people are going to expand a bit. Maybe you'll learn something new. It's a new project, again, different way of doing things. That's the exciting part.
Did that go well? Did you think you did you do a good job?
No, I got fired the next day, but no, yeah, it was okay. They were really, really, really cool.
Okay. So from me, if I think about the most exciting part of this past week, was definitely getting paid for adding sponsors to this podcast.
It's a big milestone.
It's a huge milestone.
A clap.
Thank you very much. So for the listeners here, like, it's a bit weird because I always told everyone that I didn't want to do ads, because I really believe that the ad industry is somehow damaging a little bit society. And it's also unfair, like, just because you pay, you get more exposure that someone that doesn't have the money, but that doesn't mean necessarily that you have a better product, right? So I was always telling everyone, I don't want to do ads. But then I need money, right? So, and I want to monetize this podcast, and I've tried Patreon. And one thing that I realized, that people do not want to pay for something that is already free. So I think that's like the golden rule of the internet, right? If you have something that is already free, and now you have Elon Musk trying to do that with Twitter a little bit. They're like, okay, Twitter is free, but now you can pay to get this blue shitty tick. And like, no one gets it, right? Because it's already free. So you cannot like take something that is free and then suddenly, okay, make it, you need to like maybe add some new features.
I think it's amazing.
What?
I've never had so much fun reading tweets from official companies like Nestle. Today I saw a tweet that said something in lines of like, hey guys, we buy the water from you and then sell it back to you at a markup, lol. That was like basically like Nestle. It wasn't official, of course, but they bought the little thing. So someone just made that account. But
that's true. That's true. Nestle is basically getting something that is free, which is water, and selling it. And you are very against paid water, right? So I think let's not go there, because Sven is really maybe for some other story or other time. But then something changed, actually, Sven. I have to tell you this story, because I've been working on the indie lottery with João, and he's also an entrepreneur. And then we built the whole product, and then he was like, okay, what next? And I said, okay, now we go and we do marketing. And he said, can we do ads? No, ads are shit. Like Twitter ads are terrible. So we are basically going to spend 3 to 4 hours a day on social media, creating content and engaging with people so that they will come to our product. And like, I looked at him and I saw like his expression of sadness, like pure sadness. He was like, oh my God, I hate that. I don't want to do that. Like, and then I realized that maybe ads are not that bad if they are doing properly, because ads are enabling people like João, people like myself, people that have great ideas but are terrible at marketing. They enable them to show their product to the world. So that kind of changed a little bit my mindset regarding ads. And I thought, wait, maybe I can help indie makers spread the word about their amazing projects. And I decided to do it. I created a form, a tally form, and I shared it on Twitter and said, we are ready for ads. And I mark it at $65 per episode. What do you think of this price? Would you pay for it?
Yeah. Potentially, yes.
Yeah?
Like, if you're asking me overall, is it worth the money, provided that, it accomplishes a certain goal that I have, like, a certain audience reach or a certain type of audience or whatever, probably yes. That's it. Like, thinking about it now, if I had my company,
right,
of course, you'd want to utilize all the channels. You always go, the most efficient ones towards the least efficient ones, right? So you kind of, that's why a lot of people start with SEM and that kind of advertising, because it works. Sponsorships, of course. I mean, Look at all the YouTube channels and all the podcasts. If you have a podcast on psychology, that's a place where you want to sponsor, that you want to sponsor with, if you're, I don't know, some sort of psychology books writer or whatever, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so that was something that really has been surprising me a lot, both with the indie lottery and also now with the podcast, is that people are willing to pay for it. It's, coming from a community where it's hard for me to sell $10 subscriptions, it's really surprising for me that people are just willing to pay $65 for an ad. So I shared it. At first, I didn't have anyone interested, but then Simon Oiber, that I interviewed recently here in the podcast, he reached out to me and he said, like, I love your podcast. I want to buy 4 slots. Yeah. 4 slots. That's like $200 and something bucks. And I thought, what? I don't believe this. And suddenly, and the thing is, like, I told him, I don't want to overburn people with one single product, because sometimes they get annoying, right? Like you hear the same kind of ad, like NordVPN, like we have heard this many times on YouTube and everything. So we decided to do these ads instead of being every episode. We decided to like give an interval between episodes, and we decided to make each ad special, like something that is really interesting, something that I wouldn't get. I wouldn't necessarily want money for it, because I think it's really interesting for the people listening. So that's definitely the most interesting thing that happened this past week. The fact that I'm finally monetizing this podcast in a way that I feel comfortable with. And I'm super excited because next week the listeners will already start listening to the first ads, and I think they'll enjoy.
What determines how annoying an ad will be, or what determines how fine a person will be with seeing or hearing an ad in whatever they're like listening or watching?
I think it's repetition. When it gets boring, I think when you hear you remember we both work at Trivago, and many times when I said I worked in Trivago, people said, "Oh, the guys with annoying ads."
Yeah.
So I think
it became a meme. Even
it became a meme because it was always the same and very repetitive. So I really believe that an ad, when it's really repetitive, it becomes annoying in people's perspective. But there's also many examples of podcasts that have amazing ads that I really like to listen. Yeah, anyways, that was the most exciting thing that happened to me this past week. What was your least favorite thing, the most unexciting, the opposite spectrum that happened this past week? What comes to your mind?
I may be a bit disappointing here, and then because I'm not sure. I mean, we've been hanging out a lot in the past week, or since I came to Portugal, because obviously you're here, and I love spending time with you. But it's, I'm in a different country right now. I was attending the Web Summit. We were going around. We were sailing. We went to to Sesimbra, etc. It's really hard to I really have to focus and think hard to be able to find something that I really didn't like. I mean, it's.
So nothing in your job, nothing kind of frustrated you in this past week?
Maybe at work certain things, because if I complain, I'll feel like
just complain. It's fine. It's a safe space.
Oh, okay. I have one for you. Okay. That's kind of work related. I don't like when tasks don't get finished on time, which obviously no one does. But then there's also no communication, right? It's just like Friday, things didn't get done. Okay, what happened? No one reached out to me beforehand saying like, hey, we're going to get blocked. We're not going to deliver this on time. Then, I feel that the first place I'm going to go is I'll look at myself, like what could have I done better? Should I have been more proactive in reaching out? And he's like, what's happening? But then that's micromanagement. Like, hey, what's with this task? Are you making progress? And so on. So that's kind of frustrating because I work with adults and I would really expect them. And I communicated this to them clearly. Mm-hmm. Like, if you're getting, I'm sure you can kind of identify with this issue because you're a developer and you worked as a developer before as well. Like, if you're not making it on time, let me know at least. So I know that I have to report to the customer, okay, we're going to push this task into the next sprint, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
For me, top of my head, I would say that two things come immediately to my mind, which are not that bad, actually. I don't think anything like really bad happened this past week. But one was definitely like feeling a little bit frustrated with the indie lottery. because we launched it and I think it's a great product, but it's not having enough users. We have like so far about like 5-10 a day. We are not putting a lot of efforts in marketing, granted, but it's still like I was expecting something much more grandiose. And it's again, it's the classic indie hacker frustration of like releasing something, putting a lot of effort into something, and then feeling lost as well. Like João is a designer and he's very specific about the design, and he's like, I want it this way, and please work on this. And I am in the other spectrum as a developer thinking, no, we fuck about the design. Like, I don't care. We just need to add more features. But in the end, we are both like, we just want it to work and we don't know what we should do. So we're a little bit lost. And at the same time, there's this like anxiety of, we need this to work. Like, because both of us are in a very similar situation of like, we want to put all the efforts now to be able to create this somehow passive income that is able to create a nice salary so that we can relax. So yeah, definitely that was one of the most frustrating things. And then the second thing is just so much work, man. So many things that I have to do. Like I cannot go to bed with this feeling of like, whew, I've done everything, you know? There's so much shit to do that and then having you here, for example, I think I also have this stress because I want to hang out with you and I want to do things with you because you are living and like we don't see each other that often. So I want to do it, but at the same time, when I'm doing it, I'm thinking, man, I should be working. And this also reflects with my social life, not only with you, but like across everything, like with my family, with my other friends here in Portugal. I'm always feeling like, fuck, I should be hanging out with them. I should be putting more effort. I'm a shitty friend, a shitty whatever, relative. So yeah, that's my frustration.
This is the green side on the green grass on the other side of the fence thing. You know, it's like I watched this YouTube video. This is not me projecting, though, just kind of came up as whether to have kids or not. And then the video was about how regardless of your decision, you're gonna, you know, kind of want occasionally at least to have chosen the other thing. That's normal, right? So you're split because you kind of want to do this to enable yourself some freedom, ironically, to hang out with people, but you can't hang out right now. That's sacrifice, right? So that's what people kind of very often quote as the sacrifice that you need to make, is to say, no, sorry, I know this is a rare occurrence, but I really cannot attend, I cannot join, I cannot hang out. I love you guys, but I need to do this for myself. And I think it's more about learning to feel comfortable with yourself and that kind of approach. And the best you can do is hope that people understand, and people that really know what you do and that support you will understand. You know, they should kind of back you up and say like, okay, that's no, like the reason I'm not being overly assertive while I'm in Portugal is because I know that you're working and I know you want to do this, and I don't want to guilt trip you into like, let's hang out. We'll hang out. Unless my plane crashes tomorrow. I hope it doesn't, but like, you shouldn't be feeling bad about these things, right? So I should also be happy to give you some time if I'm a decent friend or a relative or family, whatever, and say, okay, I know that it makes you happy, and not hang out with you, with me makes you sad. So I'm not going to try and make it feel as bad, just so that you can, spare more energy and then invest it into your business.
But with you, I actually, because you flew from Berlin and you are here, and I know it's like, okay, we only have this amount of time to hang out. I really try harder to meet you, even though maybe sometimes it seems that I am working a lot, but with people that are here, like with my family and with my friends, I'm always thinking like, for instance, I returned right from Germany a year ago, and I'm always thinking, okay, it's been 6 years abroad. Now I need to reignite those connections that I had here with my friends, and I need to like restructure my social life, right? Because it's really important for me. And I'm always postponing that. And maybe they will understand and maybe they won't. I don't know. But it's been a year, right? And I don't see an end. I don't see like, okay, it's been a year, but at least now I'm making 10K a month and now I can relax. No, not at all. So yeah, it's this anxiety of fuck. I also want to make time to settle down and have my life, and if I want to have kids, if I want to have everything more structured, I need to have time for that, right? It cannot be work, 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 work. Oh, there's a kid. Hey, kid, whatever. Work, work, work. No, I need to have my time. I want to like take time to take care of things, and I just don't see when this will be happening.
So what drives the anxiety, right? What makes you anxious? Is it like the fear of not making it on, like, quote unquote, on time, whatever that on time would whatever it is? Do they have like some deadlines that you kind of...
Yeah. I mean, I think there's definitely deadlines. I think it's also not knowing if it will work out. If you told me like, Tiago, in 1 year you'll be making whatever enough for your lifestyle, and then you can just restore your life and resume your social life. But I just don't know. I simply don't know.
That's funny. It's like when you travel, you go to places that you haven't been before, and you don't know these places, and that kind of, what that does is, it supports it basically makes your body create dopamine, right? Because you're like in a new, it's sort of like endorphins when you work out. It's an uncomfortable feeling, pain and so on. So just to kind of remedy the situation. But yet in this case, when you're in an unknown and faced with the unknown, there's anxiety. So it's opposite of a pleasant feeling. But that's beyond me. I'm not well educated in the field, so.
Yeah, I mean, I also didn't expect you to.
Good. I no longer have to be anxious about it. Yes.
Yes. I'm just saying that this is something that is haunting me, or at least like, was not so good in the past week, and you never like, death. Wow. Let's speak about death.
This took a dark turn.
This took a dark turn. We always think that we are immortal. We always think that like, let's just keep on going. But sometimes shit happens. And sometimes people that we love die. It's very dark, but it happens, right? And then a lot of people say, fuck, I should have taken more time to be with them, right? There was a waste. And like this week I was also thinking a little bit about that. Like, what if one of my, like, there's so many friends that I wanted to hang out, like my family. What if this happens? It's very dark, but then I think, fuck, am I doing the right thing?
But it's a false feeling, right? Because like, imagine, so I've been living abroad for a long time now, and every time I go home, I enjoy, don't get me wrong, I love my family, I love spending time with them. But at a certain point, and I'm sure they feel the same, you're like, oh fuck, I gotta get out of this house. Like, I'm at my mom's place, for example. We're having a good time, but then every now and again, if I didn't have a good night's sleep, or I'm a bit hangry or whatever, and she comes around and, can you do this? Can you do that? And I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake! Like, I'm back to like being 12. Like, no, I can or I can't. So you get kind of nervous. So it kind of feels good to think about it and to pressure yourself about it, but it's not actual. Like, you wouldn't spend, if you did anything else than this, if you had a regular job, you wouldn't be spending more time. Because you remember when you were in Germany and we had a discussion about, okay, if you go back home, you'll hang out with people a bit more often. Then you go home and realize, at first it works because everyone's happy to see you after a long time, but then it becomes normal, and then you end up not seeing your friends for months on end. Again, you're in kind of a similar position. Yeah. So that's the thing, I think. And I think,
but I miss what you just said, that this past week you were stress-free and hanging out with your friends and your sister and everything. I miss that. I miss being able to do that as well, a little bit of like, let's relax. I'm stress-free. I finished my work. I punched the clock. Punch the clock? Is that what you say?
I don't know if you punch clocks around, man.
Punching a clock. And now I can just relax, do whatever, I always feel guilty if I'm not working, so
that's because I think I think it comes from our tendency to look at things far away, the things that are far away, like goals. So you have this goal to become, completely financially independent, have multiple sources of income, contribute to your community, etc., etc. All the things that I know you told me that you want to meet cool people, etc. The thing is, I think that gets us anxious is instead of thinking about your next milestone or your next goal and thinking this progress as stairs and then taking it one stair at a time, you're like looking at the end goal and seeing how far you are from it, and that makes you anxious because you're like, shit, I should really be closer. I thought I'd be closer.
Yeah.
But then again, contrarily to that, if you had spent less time looking at the end goal and more time looking at the stairs and where you're walking, you could have skipped over a few obstacles. You could have like navigated your course better. So like, sure, it's good to look at the end goal occasionally, but like, just thinking about this has been happening to me or had been happening to me for the first couple of years when I was in Germany. That's why I'm saying this. I was constantly thinking about all the things that I wanted to accomplish in my life, that I wanted to have, to the point where I spent like 3 years thinking about it. I did fuck all in terms of my job and my career, and then woke up a couple of years later thinking like, oh fuck. And then the opposite problem happens, and then depression kicks in. Like, I should have like done something better in the past, because anxiety is always related to the future and depression is always related to the past and nostalgia and that kind of stuff.
But isn't it important to have a longer term goal?
I'll give an example. A couple of years ago, my goal was to get up to a certain amount of money in terms of my investments and in my ETF and my stocks portfolio.
How much?
The second one was like 10K. It was
month?
Yeah. So there was like, what was it? That was kind of a couple of years into me being in Germany. I started making money. Okay, I want to make some investments. The second one was, all right, I want to get my German skills to B1 level because I want to be able to integrate with the society there. But then the moment you verbalize and you kind of visualize these goals, it's a lot easier to break it down into steps. Because if I wanted to get to B1 and I knew that I had been A2 at that point, I knew that I needed to do like B11 and B12 course, like 2 courses. And then I looked it up. Each one is like 4 months duration, so 12 months in a year. That was I had plenty of time to get there. So I just sat down and looked some language schools up. I found a good price, a good offers, something close and whatever, and signed up. And then bam, the goal's there. But if I had been thinking about like, man, I really should be native level German by now, it took me really like I'm a slow ass starter. Then you just kind of get depressed over how you're not there.
So what you're saying is that it's better to break down your goals into multiple smaller steps.
Always. Like at work, I do it all the time. In my private life, I used to do it, and then I stopped for God knows what reason over the past year or two. And I was actually discussing this with my girlfriend a couple of months back. Like, I really need to sit down and think about it again and set some goals for myself.
How do you see now the future? So we spoke about our job. We spoke about the things that were exciting for us in the past week, things that were not so exciting. How do you see yourself in the next, let's say, 5 years? Is that at all like clear to you? What you like? Do you want kids? Do you want to have like an apartment? Do you have like a specific place in life you want to be?
Yes and no. I do have specifics in terms of like, yes, I definitely want to have kids. I want to have at least one apartment, or the apartment that I live in. No, I mean the apartment that I live in, right? So just to buy an apartment, but then also investigating the financial viability of that. Like, does it make sense? Does it, how much room can I leave for myself to actually get another real estate that I can, or maybe even see it as an investment? Start working on my third source of income, which would be like my little side gig, and then besides, so that's the third one besides my investment portfolio and the real estate, to kind of start working towards this, securing my future financially, right? So that's one thing. Securing my future would be good.
Do you think you'll get there?
It's naive. Like, I know I'm gonna get there. No, I don't know. I don't want to spend energy building up a plan B, because if shit goes south, I know I'll manage. I trust myself enough that I've put myself through enough situations that I can confidently say that I'll probably be able to manage myself. I mean, stuff can go so wrong that like you just have no choice. But what's the point thinking about these scenarios, right? There's a photo of me when I was a kid in my mom's house that I remember seeing. Every time I'm going through a certain room there, I see that picture, and a couple of times I stopped and I looked at myself, and I felt I had this like very sad kind of negative, sort of like sentimental, nostalgic feeling in a direction of like, I'm not happy. Like I feel like I betrayed that kid, because that kid would have wanted me or himself to be somewhere else in the future. So when you ask me where I'd like to see myself, I definitely don't want to be a 40-year-old or 50-year-old Sven looking at a 30-year-old Sven and thinking like I betrayed myself, like fuck, I didn't get myself where I wanted to get myself.
But how does that, especially if you're in a family,
Right.
It's not only about you, right? There's the sacrifices, right? So maybe the Sven of a 40-year-old Sven is not as happy as the 30-year-old would imagine, but now has two kids that are extremely happy, or a wife or a girlfriend, partner, whatever that is happy as well, or family. So I understand that, and I totally agree that as in the selfish way that I want to be indie hacker. I want to work on my own projects.
Yeah.
That definitely. I want to make that money, and I want to work as hard as I can, because I want to make this happen, right? So that's something that I really, really want to do. And if it was only me, sure, no, it's a no-brainer. That's what I'll be doing, right?
If it's a family, then it's a tricky.
But then if I have Carolina, my partner, if we have kids, if I have also my family and my friends that require me as well to think about them and to sacrifice, then what would the 30-year-old, 20-year-old Tiago say when he says, okay, maybe he's not as happy, maybe he's not doing indie hacking full time, but at least has the other things. You know what I mean?
Yes, and I think there's a certain level of like, I mean, it can get self-destructive, this kind of thinking, because it leads to more anxiety and like what would have been, what if, all these like really, really bad questions that you keep asking yourself when you get stuck in these loops.
Like, how do you deal with the pressure of not letting down the people around you? Because you want to do your thing,
right?
You want to achieve your goals, and you are selfish in that way. And I think we're both very similar in that. Like we know what we want, and we are a little bit selfish as well. Like, okay, we want to achieve that. Like, and the others will need to somehow be flexible. But at the same time, we think we don't want to make them sad. We want them to be happy,
right?
So how do you deal with that?
It's one of those things where. There was of all the TV shows and stuff that I've seen, it comes from The Office. There was this funny quote in The Office that I can't forget.
Great show.
Great show, not cringe at all. Where I think it was like Dwight and someone else, like two characters from the TV show, and then one messed up, and then the other one, and he was beating himself up about it, and then I think Dwight, of all the people on that show, for those of you who know, said something in lines of, not everything's a lesson. Sometimes you just fuck up. Sometimes it's just shit. That's it. There's no how do you make it better. Sometimes you don't make it better. It's it. You made a choice. You sacrificed an hour or two that you could have spent with your mom and your dad, and you did your thing. If something horrible happens tomorrow, you'll have to live with it. That's it. You just live with it. There's no point where you just fix all the stuff and everything's fine and nice. No, that's never going to happen. And I think that's what leads to depression and anxiety with a lot of people, because they feel like I need to iron things out. Everything should be fine. No, it's just not going to be fine. It's the way it is. Learn to live with it. Time helps. It doesn't feel that bad anymore. But that's it. Sometimes mistakes are just mistakes, and sometimes you just mess up. I don't know. You can't always expect to be able to spend the time with your family and work a lot. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, that's really good. It's really,
really dark, good. But it's the way it is. I don't know.
I mean, it's dark, but at the same time, it lifts the pressure a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? Because I always have this feeling like I need to make everything perfect. Like I can make no mistake, and I need to like balance myself and the ones around me perfectly to the point that I cannot make any mistakes. But thinking about it that way, which is you will make mistakes, but you are confident enough in yourself that you know that you are able to live beyond those mistakes and live like you can handle it. That's something really important.
You need to learn to trust yourself. Do you feel you trust yourself?
In what way?
that you simply trust yourself, that you can, like, it sounds very, very funny, and I swear to all the listeners, I'm not on crack cocaine,
The bit
but
of
that
wine,
you
though.
a bit of wine. Hey, it's not illegal. It's tasty wine. That that whatever situation you'll find yourself in, you'll be fine. Like what I was mentioning before, right? So
I don't know. Like I have this feeling. For instance, when I went to college,
Right.
I studied in a very like tough college. Tough seems a bit hard. Like tough in terms of like being hard to like study and pass the exams and everything. Everyone's like it's the best college in the country, but it's really hard. Like everyone said, it's really easy to get in, but it's really hard to get out. A lot of my colleagues didn't even finish, and like they quit after 1 year or so. And I was always kind of passing by. I was like, okay, I barely passed this class and barely passed the other class.
Right.
And in my mind, I was always thinking, this next exam, this next year, I will be exposed as a fraud. Like everyone will see that I'm not controlling this shit.
Oh, the imposter syndrome.
The imposter syndrome, that I will fail. And I think that's a little bit also what's happening with me in life. Like I'm doing stuff and I want to do it and I want to be indie hacker and that's my passion. But at the same time, I have this feeling that it will all like go apart. And then I will be alone, living in my basement, working a job that I hate, and everything dark.
No, you know how many conversations like I've had, like how many people I've talked to, and they had like, with this, had this exact same conversation. Like I feel like I go to work, I don't feel like I do anything. Like anyone could do. A monkey could do this. Well, yeah, but the monkey's not there, right? Go try to train a monkey to send emails.
So that's
You're gonna get rich if you do.
So that's your argument.
That's
I mean,
that's the worst
a monkey
argument.
could do that, but the monkey is not there. So how will do it?
Oh my god!
Is that your argument? I love it. I love what you said though. Like, and I think it's really important. Try to not take yourself that serious, and try to trust yourself, to know that even if you make mistakes, you'll be able to handle it.
Yeah.
Is there any other trick like to make sure you handle it? Like, is it like surrounding with the right people? Is anything that you think that people can do to be more sure that they will handle the mistakes well?
Think about the situation that I had a couple of weeks ago. So just for you guys to know, so it was Web Summit. I took a wrong bus too late. My phone died. I had no idea where I am. I ended up like on a different side of Lisbon, trying to find my way back home. And I should have been home at like midnight. Tiago already returned. He was on another party. And I told him I'd be home around midnight when the bus drops me off. So like fast forward 4 hours, I came back with a crazy story. Met some students, ended up like drinking beer with some random students somewhere in Lisbon, and they drove me back home, whatever. But the funny thing is, I really remember when I walked into the living room, you were still awake, like barely. And the thing that you said to me was, I'm paraphrasing now, but it was something in lines of like, yeah, at first I was like, where the hell is Sven? Like he's not picking up his phone, he's just lost. But then I was like, fuck it, it's Sven, he'll handle it. So then the moment you said this, so this is a really good example of how you just basically reaffirmed that, okay, so this is a feedback. It's not only me thinking I can handle myself, it's just that you probably noticed some sort of a pattern of behavior in me that like led you to the conclusion that I'll be fine and you shouldn't be worried. That's so I didn't surround myself with people like you to kind of tell me like, yeah, you'll be fine. But kind of indirectly, accidentally, it kind of happened, right? So sure, if people know you well enough, but that also means that like with those people and like you just gotta, it was not really having you there. So it's not surrounding myself with people like you. It was more of doing my thing and you being there next to me, seeing me do my thing and figure out like, okay, I'll be fine. Right. So it's more about actually you pushing yourself and kind of putting yourself in a fucked up situation every now and again to test yourself. Yeah. It's a very vague. This is like very Web Summity kind of
leave
talk.
Your comfort zone.
Leave your comfort zone, guys. But it just clicks at some point. Like, yeah, I don't know.
I think that's a great way to finish these episodes. We spoke about our jobs, spoke about the good things and the bad things, and about our anxieties, a little bit about the future. But in the end, everyone has anxieties. No one knows what the hell we are doing. And you just have to trust yourself. You need to trust yourself and know that no matter what happens, you'll be able to handle it.
No.
So yeah, it's about surrounding yourself with the right people that support you. But more important than that is supporting yourself, like knowing, okay, I can do this. Thank you, Sven, for starring in this Wannabe Entrepreneur
You're
episode.
very welcome. Thank you for having
You're
me on
going
your
tomorrow
amazing podcast.
back to Berlin.
Yes.
I'm
yes,
sad.
yes. I'm very sad as
Because we cannot hang out as much, but at least now I have time to work.
well. Yeah. You'll be able to work.
This was another Wannabe Entrepreneur episode. And starting from next week, get excited because we are going to start some sponsorship. And I really want to do this with you, the listeners. And I want to get your feedback so that we do this right. And at the same time, you can still become a member of the WB Space. $10 per month, and then you can meet other indie makers from all over the world and come build your project with us. Besides that, make sure to share the episode with all of your indie maker friends. I'm sure they will also enjoy that. This was another Wannabe Entrepreneur. See you next time.
Okay, bye.